Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mad Sounds podcast. So I feel like I got to give a little kind of intro here to say this was kind of a weird episode because first off, it is one of those, one topic, serious issue things. Like last year, we talked about Bowie for the first part of an episode, me and Johnny and John back when he was a co-host. This time around, obviously, Chester Bennington, Linkin Park, kind of shook up the whole music world, including the both of us, me and Johnny. So we spent a good half hour plus talking about it, which you're going to be hearing here. Now, I do allude at a couple points here that we're recording 2 episodes in this and that there's stuff happening after the Chester Bennington discussion in this. Basically what happened, and I don't know if it was just some weird mental health thing catching up to me or just the mood of this discussion coming on, but for the rest of the recording, looking back, it wasn't a very good conversation. It wasn't very entertaining. I was just kind of out of it for a lot of it, and I figured it probably would have been better to just leave it to this conversation right here. So I'm just going to cut it at around the point where this ends and then kind of do an outro from there. Hope you guys understand. Now, one thing I should say, and I want to get it out of the way quick because I don't want to, put a bunch of plugs in the intro of an episode like this, but this is, I should say, the first episode of Mad Sounds I'm putting out since I announced my album. Learned Helplessness under the name Fully Involved. I put up a whole video kind of talking about that as well as the future of the Spin It Reviews YouTube channel, which I'm going to be at some point changing to be a Mad Sounds YouTube channel. But yeah, my album is coming out on August 11th. You can pre-order it on Bandcamp. I'll put links in the description, or it's just at a fullyinvolvedmusic.bandcamp.com. There's also social media links on there, including a couple new accounts like on Twitter and YouTube and stuff. Definitely recommend checking that out. I'm pretty proud of it personally. That's all I'll say on that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. It kind of goes outside the typical topics that you'd expect for a conversation like this. Like, in addition to missing him and like the impact that he had and all that, and the mental health issues, and obviously we do talk about like the interesting angles that can come from being a critic and looking at someone in the position that Linkin Park was as kind of being, well, mocked for the most part for the rest of the year, and kind of how media can take a 180 at that time. And it might sound a little heartless when I'm describing it, kind of backing away from the emotional part of it, but I still thought it was an interesting angle to take for a good portion of this discussion here. Hopefully you guys get something out of it too, because I thought it was interesting. So yeah, subscribe on iTunes if you like what we're doing here, and check out Spin It Reviews, soon to be Mad Sounds, on YouTube, vice versa, depending on which way you're listening to it. And yeah, if you can give any feedback, any kind of thoughts you have on the matter, that would be greatly appreciated. I love to keep this kind of conversation going. And yeah, thank you. Enjoy. One, two, three. And you're sure you did it at the same time as me?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
You're gonna question me on timing? The drummer boy, Mr. Drummer Man, telling me to
listen. It's around. I know it's a distance. Internet doesn't go that fast, especially with our current political issues. Heyo.
Oh hey, hashtag neutrality, hashtag save the internet, hashtag I miss my mom. Welcome to the Mad Sounds podcast, where we talk about things.
Anyway, let's talk about death.
Yeah, let's talk about sadness. Welcome to the Mad Sounds.
So yeah, Mad Sounds talking about music and other whatevers. I'm Mark.
I'm Johnny.
Yeah, so I'll do plugs in the intro here. It seems a little tasteless for what we're going to start off with. We're kind of going to be recording full disclosure, we're kind of going to be recording 2 of these in around the same time frame, releasing them in subsequent weeks, One of them, we'll save the happy bit riffing, wonderful dumb boy stuff that you guys love from us for that.
Yeah.
This time around, it was inevitable we had to touch on this.
Well, yeah,
in some form.
Because we're a music cast and, talking about music news every now and again. And we've done topics. We've done topic casts, as I'll call them, where there's a central thing that happens and we do a podcast around it. And this is a big one.
I mean, and it's not too far out of our wheelhouse because we did the same thing with Bowie.
Exactly.
With John when that happened.
Exactly. So,
and I feel like there'll be we know how to keep that tone,
Yeah, we know how to talk about sadness and not be sad all the time. We can make it lighthearted.
And in fact, in some of my thoughts, I'm going to be talking about how we talk about sadness.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chester Bennington died, and so that's the thing that happened.
So I feel like the best way to go about talking about this would be by saying where and what exactly was happening surrounding myself, because that's exactly what you need to focus on when you're mourning someone.
Yeah, it's your own selfish shit.
So I did kind of touch on it in a few tweets on the day on the last Thursday. But in case you don't know, so I live in San Diego, and once a year, because I'm a cheap guy, I'm a cheapskate, I take the coaster down to the Comic-Con Convention Center area for one day and kind of wander around the outside.
All right.
And wander around the outside, maybe go to a comedy show, see, and I did end up seeing a Comedy Bang Bang live recording that night, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be my last time in the downtown area before I move in the coming weeks. I feel like I gotta set up the context here. So I went down there at around maybe 9-ish, and the first thing I saw was a live recording of Dynamic Banter. So I technically saw 2 podcasts live. Yeah. So I saw Dynamic Banter, which is Steve Zaragoza, Mike Falzone. We like those boys.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of the Steve and you're kind of the Mike, I don't really know how to further delve into that, but I get the kind of vibe.
Okay, I see a little bit of what you mean, because Steve is weird and eccentric, but Mike is he's the
mature one.
He can
knows how to say things.
Knows how to make jokes and make it tonally okay. That was a spin on totally. That was the joke bit that I just made. Did you get it? Tonally, totally.
I probably will in editing. I got it in editing.
But anyway.
See, it doesn't have to be 100%. Okay. But anyway. One other thing is that I actually ordered that thank you SourceFed shirt, that pink one that was on For Human People. I was their last design for that, and of course it arrived on that day, but after I left, so I didn't get to wear it to that, which was unfortunate. But it's always I had met Steve and Mike a couple other times before, and they're always cool. So it was nice. It was nice.
It's cool. It's cool.
But anyway, revolving back around to the topic at hand,
to the elephant in the room.
Yeah, to the anything I was gonna say to describe the elephant in the room would have been tasteless. But I was gonna say the super edgy elephants in the room, but Mark, don't.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. So I watched Dynamic Banter. It was awesome, and there was a whole thing going on that day with Skybound. That was the name of the company. They were putting on this whole thing throughout the day. So right after I met up with them, there was some time to kill, so I just looked right down at my phone, and oh no, a legendary frontman died.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
So I just kind of, like a lot of people, first reaction is just kind of stunned, kind of having no idea how to process, it happening on Chris Cornell's birthday. We're not alien to the concept at this point, but still.
No. Yeah.
So everyone else was off kind of doing their own thing, everyone else in the room, and I was the only one that was still in like the chairs that was still in the podcast, because like I didn't know what to do at that point. Like, do I go off to the next thing, and like basically it felt like hours, but it was probably more like around maybe half an hour I was there, just kind of sitting there, kind of scrolling through my feed at literally everyone talking about this.
Yeah.
Because, like, this is a pretty hard-hitting thing. And it really kind of stunted my headspace for the next little bit, because I was just... I'll say that Thursday, the 20th, was one of the most surreal days of my life. Just because of the setting I was at, combined with the feelings felt at the time, that throughout the rest of the day was... like a mix of some of the best stuff, some of the worst stuff, all mashed up into this weird soup of a day in the opposite side of the county that I live on.
Okay.
Also, I should probably say, one thing that they gave away, the Skybound people gave away, was like these hats that have like a chalkboard on them.
Yeah, I remember seeing you tweet about that.
Yeah. So I decided. So at first, I wrote on there like a dynamic banner, like in joke. First of all, for when I was when I was being up Stephen Mike, but then afterwards, like I decided to erase that and write R.I.P. Chester on it, and I felt kind of conflicted on that. Like as I was walking around, like, is this a good tribute, or am I just kind of a dick that's ruining the mood?
I mean,
it's killing the vibe.
It's something to kind of. I mean, it's. As far as the tone of the con, a little bit, but it's something that you were feeling at the time. It's something that you were, you were representing your headspace at the time, which I mean is totally understandable. And I don't feel like anybody would have called you out on that as being like, "Hey, don't be a fucking dickhead," you know.
And like it's kind of like a bittersweet, dark humor kind of thing. And but for most of the day, like I decided, maybe I'll turn around backwards. Maybe I'll like put it in my bag for a little bit if I'm in a I don't know. The one time it really got noticed was when I was wandering around and went into an FYE. And there was this girl there that had like a mohawk and was just like oh my god. Yeah. And there was kind of a moment there that was really nice. But yeah. I'm sorry, I'm kind of revolving this around myself, but it was a super weird day, is what I was saying, with everything hitting me in the way that it was. Yeah. Luckily as the day went on, as I was seeing more stuff, I was able to kind of get my mind off it, but at the same time it was always kind of lingering there, especially as I was checking my social media feeds, which maybe wasn't the best idea, but...
Well, needless to say, I was at work when it happened. Like, I went for a break, and I saw it on my Twitter, and I was like, oh, shit. Maybe it's because I've, like, Chris Cornell was also a musician that I genuinely, like, looked up to, and David Bowie again, so it's just been weird to like, for me, like, I get the reaction that a lot of people have had and why they are so passionate about the loss of Chester, because and it's weird because for me, when I was driving this friend of mine back to her side of town, and she was asking if we could listen to Linkin Park, and she was going on. She kind of had the same thing she had this very intense feeling about it, and I didn't, and it was weird. Like, I was sad. I was like, oh, that fucking sucks, man. But I wasn't like, maybe it's because I'm just burnt out emotionally on a whole lot of death. But I am sad
too. But I gotta say, like, I think the thing is that in contrast with all my surroundings was really what made the difference between oh wow that's horrible, like I was just at home when Chris Cornell died. The difference between that and just like the crazy circumstances surrounding that particular day. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I had, like, my friend was telling me, she had been crying listening to his music, and it wasn't like that for me. Like, I was definitely bummed, and I'm gonna sound like such a non-Linkin Park fan. I used to be a ginormous fucking Linkin Park fan. Like, I grew up with Meteora and Hybrid Theory, those were like, I grew up in that age where that was like your shit when you were growing up. you know? But I don't know if it's because, again, I'm just numb to celebrity deaths right now.
Please don't say numb right now.
I wasn't trying to make a joke. I was just... I don't know if it's because of that or because I'm, I feel so disconnected from Linkin Park as a band now that it didn't have the same impact that it did when I saw Chris Cornell died or David Bowie died. Like, it sucked. I was bummed, but I wasn't, like, shocked or taken aback. And it also could have been because I have been like many people, I have been following Chester's, descent into where he ended up, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a sad. It was a very sad end note to what had been a very hard time for him, and it's saddening, to see somebody who you've seen go through just the ringer as far as emotions are concerned, especially in recent months, given the negative reception to Linkin Park's, or the Linkin Park's fans to the latest record.
Yeah, and that was actually something I was really going to go more into later on, the sort of weird emotional dynamics going on. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's just that, like, just going in tandem with all that. I lost my train of thought, sorry.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean that's it was weird. I've never felt this way when a celebrity that I genuinely liked or what affected my life in a certain way died. It's weird. It's a really weird reaction.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the main difference in the way that it hit me is that compared to like a Chris Cornell or like a David Bowie or someone else in the last couple of years, where like I understood that their legacy was super important and that, they had some amazing work. It wasn't anything where I was, like, super well-versed in their catalog enough for them to be, like, a super integral part of my musical listening. And while there isn't any Linkin Park album I put in maybe my top 25 or 30 maybe of all time, like, I still have heard all of their albums. I still hold quite a few of them in really high regards. So it's
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so it kind of hit in more of a way of like, wow, I was with them like up until that last part, because like they only put out the album like a couple months ago, and it does kind of draw parallels to like David Bowie with Black Star, you could say. But honestly, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with like the fan reaction, and this is something that that has kind of been fascinating me, kind of taking a step back from the emotional side of it, is because I'm not sure if this has happened before, where like the last thing that this big important musician made was something that was like universally panned. There was all this backlash, even going back to like the interview quotes where he was kind of sort of harassing his older fans basically, and people are like, "Oh, Chester, you're an asshole," and then now kind of looking back at that in context and kind of wondering like, was that like, because like I left a disclaimer on my videos where I've talked about Linkin Park's where I talked about One More Light, including the review, and even in the All Time Low video where I kind of peppered in references to it. And you know what? I'm just thinking like, because like Black Star, that was like a universally acclaimed record, like even in the couple days before Bowie died. So it's like when people put it on all their year-end lists, like it made sense, I think, even if it was kind of elevated thanks to that. Whereas like I'm kind of wondering like the closest comparison I can make is like, imagine if a couple months after Kid Cudi released Speeding Bolt to Heaven, his depression caught up to him, and like what the reaction around that would be like. I just kind of find that emotional kind of push and pull in this whole situation kind of fascinating. I don't know.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So, like I tweeted about, I made a live stream about this. I planned on making a comparative video essay where I talked about the last two Linkin Park records. Because like you, I mean, like I said, I grew up with Linkin Park. Like, they were an integral part of my childhood. Like, that's not a joke. That's not a lie. It's weird. I guess because they've had such a steep, at least to me personally, decline. Like, I liked Hunting Party, but I wouldn't hold it the same caliber that I would their previous work. But the whole topic of of my video essay was going to be, my thesis was going to be that Linkin Park made a record for themselves as children, and then One More Light was more a record for their own children.
That kind of makes sense.
Well,
now that I think about it.
I always talked about Linkin Park's press cycles with when talking about their albums, because that's a very integral part of their albums, of how they promote it. They're very upfront about their ideas behind an album, and that's something I've always respected about them. And during the Hunting Party promotion cycle, they talked about, we imagined we were 14 again, and we were making music for us as 14-year-olds. Whereas if you had seen some of the interviews pre the release of One More Light, they had talked about it being very of the moment in the studio. And one of the things that I think it was Chester or Mike had said was that their kids were in their minds a lot during the One More Light's recording cycle. And it kind of shows, because the tone's very different. They think very differently about their kids as they did, and the world that their kids are in now as they did differently the world when they were kids. And so it shows in the soundscape and the songwriting and the tone of both records. But it's interesting to me that I feel like people are afraid to criticize Linkin Park now because of this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's, and I'm going to sound like an asshole here, but that's a little messed up. It's a little messed up. When you're an artist, and Linkin Park has never been, even Hybrid Theory and Meteora, even when they came out, did not have people that liked it. Granted, there were more people that liked it that didn't, and that ratio started to change the longer they were out, but they've always had this lingering presence of, you used to make better music than you do now.
Yeah.
And I get that in Chester's mind especially, you reach a breaking point, but it's not always been that case. So it was interesting to me that during this album cycle, he chose this point to make a stand against his fans, and it sucks that the fans reacted as they did, because, at least a lot of fans, not every fan, because not every fan, slammed Chester for making the statements that he made. They didn't. But it was interesting to me that now, since he has died, people are afraid to talk about and criticize a shitty record. One More Light's not a good album. Let's make that clear. It's not a good record.
Yeah, and because and you know what? That's exactly why I didn't go as far as to take down my videos where I've talked about that album already, because I'm in kind of a different position that, like, you kind of had the luxury of having a long process behind it, which I kind of envy in retrospect. But like, I decided to leave those videos up, my review with the LP Club, as well as the All-Time Low one where I briefly mention One More Light, because my criticisms about those albums do still stand, I believe. Even if, like, the lyrics that do talk about more emotional issues, like, they do maybe hold a little bit more weight because of the context surrounding it, but I don't necessarily think that changes the raw quality that I felt was or wasn't there when compared to past albums. And I would still say that really the people that have been pissing me off the most aren't the people that, like, still dislike One More Light, because that's perfectly valid, or even the people, or there's always going to be people that are like, lol, Linkin Park was shitty anyway, lol, those people are always going to be around. The people that really piss me off, and ARTV posted about this around the same time, was that people like Consequent to Sound, for example. They posted this article that was like the deep depressive arc surrounding Linkin Park, and it was like, I didn't read it because I didn't want to give them the click, but I could get the idea based on what I saw. Like, they were trying to, like, lionize this Linkin Park and like sort of put it on this pedestal of, yeah, man, it is this idol that was gone too soon. But meanwhile, if you look back through, like, any mention Consequence of Sounds had of Linkin Park in the past, it was either like an ironic appreciation of their older stuff, or articles like that one where it was like, Linkin Park fans boo their shitty new song live. So it's like, don't try to, like, I think Fantano, on the other hand, is an example of how to handle that properly, because he panned One More Light. He doesn't like a lot of Linkin Park stuff, but he said very straight up in his post about it, but that, you know what, they were still a pretty important band. I still liked Hybrid Theory in my youth. I wasn't a fan of a lot of their other stuff, but, you know, it's still sad to see any kind of loss like this happen.
Yeah.
But it's like when you... It just feels so exploitive when you suddenly have this appreciation as a brand, because I know there's multiple writers at Consequence Sound, obviously, but you know that they just were the higher up people there were like careful to pluck out that the writer among them that happened to be the biggest fan to write this little tribute piece just to kind of rake a few extra dollars out of it. It feels very shady to me.
And this bothers me whenever anybody, like, and I'm gonna get some real shit for this, because I'm gonna talk about another celebrity's death. But when Paul Walker died, everyone made him out to be the best fucking actor alive. He's in a bunch of shitty car movies, people. Like, again, I respect the guy's craft.
I never heard of him before he died.
I respect any actor. I respect anybody that puts the time and effort into actually making art. That's not what I'm saying. But what I hate is when people, you know, put him up on a higher pedestal than he ever really needed to be on. Like, yeah, you can have your fans. I know people that love the Fast and the Furious movies. That's fucking great. But you know what? By the by, there are a lot of people that consider them really shitty movies, and people should not put, like, I don't expect anybody that wasn't a huge Linkin Park fan before now, or that used to like them, to say, yeah, I love it as much as I like the Beatles. Like, no, you like what you like in their catalog. Do not hold them to a higher caliber than you ever have before just because someone died. That's disrespectful to the person that died more than anybody criticizing their work.
Exactly, because you just kind of want to get a couple more cool points in the wake of a current event.
Exactly. That's the same as that whole, like, support, like, I get supporting through, like, a natural disaster through, like, sending prayers, but it's about the equivalent of that, but it's worse, because you're trying to make yourself out better than you were before, and it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. Yeah, rest in peace, though, to Paul Walker, because I'm sure you were a great guy.
Yeah.
Just didn't like your movies.
You know what? One other example that came to mind me recently was Lou Reed, because like that's another example where like his most recent work at the time was Lulu, but I don't think I saw like a thing about how, man, that was an underappreciated classic, even though I don't hate it like everyone else does. But I kind of wonder, like, I guess because Linkin Park is kind of a more quote-unquote, like, cool, mainstream kind of act. I don't know. I'm trying to pull some kind of narrative out of this that I don't think is coalescing.
Well, no, so let me help you connect the dots. So the difference between someone like Lou Reed and someone like Linkin Park is Lou Reed has a couple decades of classic material and history, whereas Linkin Park has 2 albums that are 1.5 records, because there's a lot of people I found that don't like Meteora, which is weird because that's my favorite Linkin Park record.
I mean, I don't like it as much as Hybrid Theory, but I would get. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. But you know what it is? It's like Hybrid Theory was like kind of this defining, like, bam, we got this sound, and then Meteora is like, okay, we're gonna do more of that, and like I'd say some of the best moments on it are better than some of the best moments on Hybrid Theory. Yeah. But I don't know. It didn't really catch me as track for track. But you know, it's still it's still kind of important. It's still an important record. A lot of classic tracks on it. I'm not going to deny that.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I think it's just interesting to me that I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying it's crazy to me because I know a lot of people that are like Meteora is when they started to fall off. When I would argue it's a little later down the line, but they have a very spotty discography nonetheless, and they only have,
and it's okay to acknowledge that.
Exactly, and like that. Well, that's the difference between Lou Reed and Linkin Park. Lou Reed has this massive catalog of classics, whereas Linkin Park has maybe one to some people that they consider it a classic, potentially 2. You know, that's the big difference between the two of those.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like it does more respect to the musician in question to acknowledge that they were a human artist like everyone else that has their highs and low points in their career. Like, for example, you might love David Bowie, but it's okay to make fun of that Dancing in the Street cover with Mick Jagger.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Like you might miss John Lennon, but it's okay to trash Two Virgins.
Yeah, that's absolutely
right. You know
right.
what I'm saying? Like, everyone has their high and low points, and like I don't know, like the whole idea of like, I feel like we kind of already covered this idea, but just like not holding everything in high regards just because the artist isn't around anymore. It doesn't do any more respect.
Exactly. Well, like in Chris Cornell's case, he made 2 very mediocre Audioslave records after the first really good one.
And the Timbaland album.
Yeah, he made fucking Scream. You're right. So it's okay to shit on someone's material that was bad originally after they've died. It's okay.
Yeah, and it just depends on how you do it. Like, it's okay to say like, yeah, you know what, that record it's not their best. Not like, I mean, as long as you're not saying, you know, oh, this record made me glad that they're dead or something like that. Like, as long as you're not going the troll territory
or
like the total heartless monster territory, then like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, the moral of this episode is it's okay to not respect the dead.
Well, it's okay to respect the. Oh no, because even if you talk,
I know.
Okay.
I'm preempting a potential comment.
I gotcha. But no, yeah, just be respectful. You know, don't be an actual douche. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I just
you know I'll say on the opposite side of things, like you see this stuff posted on like metal websites. And there was this amazing article, and I'll link it in the description. I forget the exact name of it. I'll look it up after we're done recording. But there was this amazing article posted that was like titled like "Dear Metal Elitists, Stop Making Fun of Chester Bennington's Death."
Yeah, I remember seeing that
because like
article.
you see the comment sections of this, and it's like, well, they were new metal posers anyway, and it's like the guy in the article is just like, you know what? I didn't even like that stuff, but be a decent human being.
Yeah, just don't be an asshole, man.
For the people that did connect to it.
Yeah, don't slam. And I'm not gonna slam I didn't slam my friends who love the Fast and the Furious movies or that hold them to their highest regard. But they're not the general populace that does not like that shit. Same with but I'm not gonna say that they are inferior people because of it. I'm not gonna say their tastes are shittier because of it. It's what they fucking like. Like, to those that like One More Light, more power to you. You like a record that I think is absolute trash. But that does not devalue your opinion on the album, nor does it devalue the music itself. It just is a statement that I feel about the album.
You just treat it with the same critical eye that you would everything else, and I don't know. I've noticed out of like the year and a half or so I've been on Twitter, especially because you get the most immediate reactions there. Whenever a celebrity dies, like it's the most extreme emotional reactions out there.
Oh yeah.
Because I've noticed like a couple times where like, and I don't know if I'm just kind of a sociopath for having this kind of mindset, but when someone because you know Chester was 41, which is kind of a horrible thing to think about. But like when someone dies that was like in their 80s or 90s, like there was this voice actress that like that's had this huge career.
Rocky Bullwinkle.
But it's like when people, but see, it kind of catches me off guard because she was 99, and what catches me off guard is when people comment on that in the same way they would for like a Chester Bennington, and I'm not trying to make a competition out of celebrity death, God no, but when people say like, oh no, this is a tragedy, this is a horrible day, but it's like, she was 99. She lived a full life.
But it still sucks. Like when Hugh Hefner died, I had the same reaction when Hugh Hefner. I was like, oh man, the Hef died.
Wait, did he die?
Yeah, he died like last week.
Hi everyone, Editing Mark here to let you know that Hugh Hefner did not in fact die. He's a very healthy boy still, so enjoy this conversation, this part of the conversation, knowing that. Okay, bye. How did I not hear about that?
I had heard about it.
Not one person? Oh.
Yep, the Hefster is dead.
Huh.
I mean, but I said the same thing. Like I said the same thing you just said. I said, but that right there is a full life lived, and that's awesome. Like
yeah. I think I felt this similar kind of thing with Gene Wilder last year, and it's meant to be no disrespect, but it's just like I feel like it's time where it's like, okay, they had their life, let's celebrate their legacy, and I don't know, like.
Mourning can still happen because it's a death.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. But sort of treating it with like this shock, like, oh no, someone that was in their late 90s just died.
But it still sucks, and it's that initial reaction. It's that reaction of, oh shit, that person's dead now. Like that person will no longer cease to be. I understand.
I understand that. Yeah,
the genuine reaction still. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I need to develop these thoughts better before getting them out there. But
okay.
There you go. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
We're both horrible on some level.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would agree with that. I am a terrible person.
Is there anything else you have to say on the topic? We've been going for about half an hour.
Not really. It sucks. I'm really sad. Meteora, and really the only records of theirs I don't like are the new one and Living Things. Like I think they've had an okay catalog as far in retrospect.
I like, honestly, one thing that I really respected that kind of made One More Light even more of a sting for me in its quality was that like I thought all of their past records were at least solid. Even if, some were more spotty than others, A Thousand Suns had all those interludes and stuff, but I pointed out in my One More Light review, just that, like, each one had its own unique angle it took on certain tracks that you could respect.
Yeah.
Let's not make this a One More Light bashing thing, because even though, as we've established, it's fine to do that, that's not really the point.
That's not what we're here to do today. We were just here to talk about Chester and
exactly
the imprint he left, and it is sad that he is gone, and he will be missed by both of us.
Yeah. And I don't feel comfortable like delving into like the mental health issues and everything. I feel like that's not really. I'm not sure if it. I'll speak for myself and say it's not really my place. I'm not sure if you have any.
It's no secret. I've attempted suicide. I've made videos about it before. And as someone who has gone through his own depressive lows, as someone with depression, it does hold an extra weight of to you to see someone that publicly spoke out about it and still lost his battle to it. It holds an extra weight of sadness to it, and that's why that's another reason why I don't really talk about it, because it's really, and I know Crash addressed this as well. It's just really,
his video.
It's really fucking hard, man. Like it, and for someone who was a voice for people with that, because the one parallel I can draw to it is in recent deaths, as far as I'm concerned, is Robin Williams. He was like the antithesis of how someone dealt with their depression. Chester was very open lyrically about it, whereas Robin chose to hide behind a guise. He hid behind his characters he played. And it's sad to see someone else who was very upfront and confronted it every day verbally through his music lose that battle. And that's kind of, but I hope that this is another instance that I hope shows that mental health is something that people should take notice of, should take should not quell, should not try to silence, because it is a genuine problem, mental health issues, and there's a lot of people with them, and so yeah, that's kind of my piece on it.
Okay. And sorry, there is one more thing I want to bring up that might seem a little weird. Is like, because I feel weird talking so much about how, guys, it's okay to say negative things about the person that just died.
Yeah.
I feel weird about that. But one thing I wanted to bring up was, so one of the first YouTube videos I ever watched was, do you know the Linkin Park parody?
Yeah.
So that was one of the first videos I ever, the one by the channel Non-Random Nonsense. He also did the greatest hit of Disturbed, another great video, which we'll probably revisit. Maybe if the same thing happens to David Draymond, I don't know, but I hope not. No.
But yeah, the Linkin Park.
The same kind of idea of like, so earlier this morning I decided that, because like I watched the Talking to Myself. This morning I got around to watching the Talking to Myself video, which just happened to be posted on the 20th, the same day that he died, which is kind of eerie.
Yeah.
But, at least the last video was for one of the stronger tracks on the record, and it was this live montage and everything. So it weirdly acted as a nice final video in a way.
Yeah.
But so I had 3 tabs open. It was that, the 10-second songs, in the end in 20 different styles.
Okay.
Video. I decided to rewatch that, and then I decided to look up that Linkin Park parody. And you know what? I watched it, and you know what? It's still funny, and I'm not afraid of saying that.
No, it's still, again, it's still really funny, and I'm sure a lot more people have been leaving negative comments on that video, and that sucks because, again, people should be allowed to express. And granted, he wasn't grieving. He was just kind of making a parody of a band he liked. Weird Al does the same shit. He just doesn't have that negative connotation a lot of the times.
With the exception of Perform This Way or something.
Yeah.
Or Achy Breaky Song.
Yeah.
But yeah. But you get the idea. I feel like the best way to, honestly, I've found, and granted, I haven't had any close family deaths or anything like that yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
But I guess what I always like to take away is that I know that I've gotten over a celebrity death or whatever kind of death that's been impactful. I know that I've gotten over it when I can just talk about them in the same context as everyone else and have a certain level of mourning and respect, but at the same time, be able to talk about it in the context of everything else.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably one of the more respectful things you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that's the end of this episode here. Again, kind of an odd, abrupt ending, but again, I don't really feel like the rest of the discussion was really worth sharing, and in a way I feel like it's a little bit more respectful to keep this to its own separate episode anyway, so I think it all kind of worked out. So again, feel free to leave any thoughts you have in the comments on YouTube or in even a review on iTunes. That would be great. And thanks for listening. Bye.